Hello and welcome. I am the Expert Layman, and today is going to be a meta strategy leveling guide. In other words, this is going to be about more general strategies that apply to more than just one class or spec. Just kind of, it's almost like testing strategies to where something like don't let yourself get stuck on a question, move on and come back to it, which is actually a good strategy for quests that are problematic. Some of these will be self-evident and some will be counterintuitive. Let me make sure that my stream is working, and it appears to be working. Apparently it's letting me do it in 4K today. So Windows updates always screw with AMD. That's another conversation. Right, but I do have some more specific strategies for day one of Lich King. Typically, most likely, Howling Fjord will be better than Borean Tundra, simply because it's easier to get to Borean Tundra, because you can just take the Zeppelin right from Orgrimmar, whereas you have to take the Zeppelin from Undercity to get to Howling Fjord. Doesn't seem like it would make that much of a difference, but in my experience, the first time this happened, there were 1 million people over in Borean Tundra and a lot less at Howling Fjord. Another thing is, if you are very well geared and you're not going to be benefiting from any of the drops, just do the quests as they're most convenient. Also, Questy is an add-on that really helps a lot, and it's not cheating. Everybody uses it. If Blizzard didn't want it to work, it wouldn't work. But if you are still in Outland Greens, the quest rewards from those initial quests when you get to Northrend will be big upgrades. So you're going to want to prioritize the quests that give gear whenever possible, because one significant upgrade will make quite a difference. There's still, on day one, there's still a good chance that you're going to run into really overpopulated areas where you're fighting over quest mobs. That can be really inefficient, and it can also get you killed, because the variable respawn cuts both ways. It means you probably won't have to wait as long for things to respawn, but if everybody, finishes their quest and bails at the same time, you can get overwhelmed. What you can do if it's overpopulated, especially if you're a skinner or a tailor, is you just go farm. Farm beasts you can skin in the case of the skinner, leather worker, and farm humanoids or undead if you are a tailor. Or you could also start farming like crystallized water, air, shadow, whatever you can, because right now there's a lot of people with a lot of money that they're ready to pump into the professions to get them maxed. And if the value of these things is never going to be higher, probably never going to be higher than it is, with the first week of launch. So if you just go out and farm the stuff, and you might need it too, and then you wouldn't have to buy it. So the idea is to stay busy and be killing stuff. If doing quests is just not very efficient at all because there's so many people there and you can't get your quest mobs, don't be afraid to go farm. There are some more general strategies I'd like to get to. One thing is, especially if you're very well geared, you don't need to be hit capped against the level 73 raid boss coming into quest. If you have the gear to swap out, you really don't need as a caster 16% hit rating. You don't need to be capped against the mobs 3 levels higher than you, which I'm not even sure they go up to 73 in Howling Fjord. So you can swap out gear. I mean, 3%, 6%, 9% might be a little more than you need, because I think, what is it, like 3, 6, 9, 16, something like that is like one 2 and 3 levels higher than you. So swap in. That was something I did with my priest. Actually, I can show that. Go to this and this. I was hit capped, and as smite, you really don't get anything from talents. You, sort of, but not really. Well, not now. You don't get any, but so I was at 16%, and now that you know, you don't need as much. I swapped in a lot of gear that because I had the full set of badge gear, which it was so nice to be able to get gear with spirit and hit on it, which is what I really needed to make the smite thing work. But since I don't really need the hit rating, I put on a slightly lower item level gear. And I love that those shadow pearls are just spell powered spirit now. That's awesome. So yeah, I'm only rocking 7.5% hit rating, which is more than enough. I'm capped 1 or possibly 2 levels higher than me, which is almost a little too much still. But your spell power, or your other stats are gonna bring you more for killing stuff closer to your level than hit rating. There's something I've been meaning to do, and I probably shouldn't do it now, but I keep forgetting. Sound in background. Every time the game loses focus, it gets quiet, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. And I should put this back on my center screen. Probably bring... where'd it go? There we go. Okay, so another thing is if you happen to stumble across mobs that you are uniquely good at killing because of your class or spec, typically, if you have like a pally or like a frost mage or a smite priest, and you can gather things up and kill a bunch of them all at once. If you find an area where you can do that, you may just want to park there for a while, especially if there's a lot of them. Also, if they happen to have high value drops, which is like the crystallized elemental stuff. Cloth is probably going to be selling pretty well, or if you have a tailor and need it. There's a strategy somebody introduced me to a while ago, and while I didn't do it universally, I am going to be doing a lot of it with the Smite Priest, and that is, a lot of times you have quests and you got to run to this place and you got to run to this place, and there's mobs in between, and you're constantly running away from stuff, and his strategy was, I just kill everything in my path. And if you are overpowered, it's probably worth doing in whatever context you're overpowered. If you have really nice like raid gear and you can just tear through mobs, it's probably a more efficient use of time to just kill everything in your path rather than just trying to ride away. You also skipping problematic quests, like I mentioned in the testing example. If it just looks like, if it's just turning into a pain in the ass and it's just swallowing up your time, just skip it and you can come back later. Is usually a good idea, because if you can get bogged down on a single quest for like 20 minutes or a half hour, that's really cost you a lot, especially if you're just standing around like waiting for mobs to respawn or whatever the issue is. And even if you're on a quest and it's going, if you're just standing around waiting on respawns, you may want to move off and do something else. Now, if there's something else you can kill while you're waiting on the respawns, kill other stuff while you're waiting for the respawns. Just what you want to do is keep your XP output flowing. And here, this one is a little the next one's a little counterintuitive. I recommend avoiding Utgard Keep, at least initially. Now, if you're in a guild and you have, well-geared, solid players, and they're in raid gear, Utgard Keep is a good place, because what do they say on the PTR test realm? At full rest, it takes about 8 runs to get a level. So if you have like a really geared group and people know what they're doing, you can make a level in just like a few hours, which is pretty good. But if you're just queuing up random with randos, it's probably gonna be ugly. One, because you are... A big part of the problem will be Outland. A lot of people return to the game in anticipation of Lich King. And the game, since pre-patch, is so nerfed. You can do so much with such crap gear, and things die so quickly. You can be really, really, really bad at the game and not understand your class and still succeed. That goes away as soon as you go into Utgard Keep. Even if you have a decently skilled group, if you have a group going in there in greens and maybe a couple of blues, it's a serious dungeon. It's roughly on par with heroics in Outland. But you may want to get some better gear, some of the quest gear before you go in there if you are in Outland greens and blues. And there are going to be a lot of people who don't know what the hell they're doing, don't know their class, and will become frustrated very quickly because it's not easy mode. There's another contingent of individuals, and this has become more and more common in gaming, of people who play just to basically upset other people. This is especially true in a game I play called Rocket League, where people will pretend isn't the right word all the time, but they will pretend to be bad just to try to upset other people. And it usually comes to like wasting other people's time. Essentially, I support a 3-strike rule. Basically, 3 wipes and you're out. After 3 wipes on a normal dungeon, it's clear that your time is being wasted and you really shouldn't bother to stay. Now, I'm not saying make drama out of it. Don't, a lot of times what they want is conflict. If it is somebody basically being what I call cryptotoxic, to where they keep making oopsies that just happen to wipe the group. Sometimes they're genuinely incompetent. Sometimes they're pretending. Sometimes... I don't know if I should get into this on on the grinding meaning streams. I talk about this, but it's possible to do something unconsciously, but it's deliberate. And it sounds weird, but you probably know somebody who keeps finding themselves in a situation and is perplexed as to why this keeps occurring. But you watch them and they're basically taking all the actions that would be required to put them in that situation. But each time it happens, they are baffled as to why this keeps occurring. Now, there are a lot of different contexts you might imagine in this, but when you watch them doing all the things that a person would have to do to put themselves in that situation or create that situation, and then as soon as they find themselves in that situation, they feel like this was completely out of your control. But it's like, you didn't have to A, B, C, or D. If you hadn't A, B, C, or D'd, you wouldn't be in X situation. And I guess that's a more general example of people doing things deliberately that they keep themselves unaware of. It's almost like when somebody's getting cheated on, and it's obvious to everybody but that person. Okay, maybe that's not the best example, but there are going to be people queuing up and wiping the group, and you don't need to make the distinction as to whether they're toxic or just incompetent. If you start getting wipes on stupid things, it's time to go. Just go back out and quest. And this is why I say initially, you're probably going to want to avoid Utgard Keep. One thing, once you do start running, if you are a class that can heal, you should get a heal set together if you don't already have one. Because right now, because of the Death Knights, we got, warriors, druids, paladins, Death Knights. there will be a lot of tanks around, and there's always a lot of DPS. This will create a glut in heals. So if you're trying to be efficient with your time, if you can afford the dual spec, get a heal set and a heal spec going, and you should be able to get into dungeons pretty easily. And if you yourself are not incompetent, a good healer can make the difference between wipes. You can also, it's also healing. You kind of get to sit back and observe more objectively because you're a little more detached. You know, when you're tanking, you have so much you're keeping track of. When you're DPSing, you're trying to, you know, focus your damage as much as possible. When you're healing, it's more reactionary. You can take in what's going on a lot better. So it's kind of the catbird seat. You see more of what's going on as a healer. So it's a good way to learn the dungeons, but also, you know, dungeon guides, videos, good idea before you go in. There are some more things you can do to just kind of smooth things out. Like if you have a quest item that you're going to have to be using over and over again, put it on your action bar, have a hotkey on it, and while I'm on this, if you do not have a 5-button mouse, I strongly recommend getting a 5-button mouse. Now you can get even more, but 5 is pretty comfortable. What it does is, so you got the left and the right, and then the scroll wheel is a 3rd button, and then you have 2 buttons on the side. And for like some commonly used abilities, it is so much easier just to hit those with your thumb or hit the middle mouse button with your finger. And that's like 3 things you don't have to bind on your keyboard. It helps a lot. Typically I'll have the jump on the rear mouse, but I play on a gamepad, so, you know, as you can see, hey! I was just going to farm while I'm doing this, but I don't know. Farming and trying to talk at the same time is not great. Oddly enough, I can play Rocket League and talk without any problems, but this is a different kind of game. So yeah, you drop that quest item down if you're going to have to keep using it. Going into your bag sucks, or even just clicking on your action bar sucks. So you just keep using the same slot, using the same key binding, or preferably, you know, like a side mouse button or something. It will help smooth things out quite a bit. It's just digging in your bag over and over again is not conducive to efficiency. Couple macros that are nice. A group invite macro, because a lot of times you'll just be doing something, there'll be somebody else there, and it's really nice to be able to just like click the person, click a button, and it tosses them an invite instead of, you know, clicking on them, right-clicking, going down the drop-down menu, and hitting group invite. It doesn't seem like a big difference, but it can help, especially, you know, if you guys are about to go after the same mob. Being able to get that group invite off quick so you both can get credit can save you some time, and will by the time you hit 80. Also a thank you macro. I kind of like having that, to where, you know, if you have them targeted, you can just hit this button and it'll tell them thank you. I used to have a macro, you know, it used to be considered poor etiquette to invite someone without talking to them first, but that seems to be a thing in Classic that's not so much anymore. And I'm trying to adapt. Having lots of food and water on you at all times, you know, if you need them, if you're not a smite priest. It's so funny, my water just keeps stacking up because it drops off mobs and I never have to use it, so I think I've got like 3 stacks of water now. Mana and health pots, whatever you might use. And if you have consumables, it's probably not worth buying them, but if you have them, use them. And also, taking breaks is important, because, you know, there's this nobility and I'm just going to power through, but the longer you do that, the more likely you are to make a mistake that costs you any time gained by powering through. Like, dying once stupidly will probably make a bigger difference than just powering through for the last hour. So take the breaks. And if you do have to bail on a group, it's good to step away from the game for a little bit. You also might want to, in the event of avoiding drama, you just alt F4 out of the game and then go do something you've been neglecting because the game just came out, and I'm sure you're neglecting something. I'm sure I will. I personally will not be playing right on launch. I have a another strategy that will help me. And if it's something you're capable and able to do, I would recommend it also. I have to get up for work at 4:30 in the morning, and which means I'm usually to bed, 8, 9, no later than 10. Typically by 8:30. So Monday night, I'm going to be staying up late. Why? But when I get off work early Tuesday afternoon, I'm going to be beat. So I can go to bed shortly after I get home from work in the afternoon. Then I'll wake up around midnight, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I can have a few solid hours to play when very few people will be on. So if you're capable of arranging your sleep so that you can be on during the lowest population on the server, that will help you get where you're going faster too. I'll do one AOE pull before I I just have so much fun with the Smite Priest. If you're, yeah, I still have some time to kill before Lich King launches, and I wasn't going to bother getting my Paladin exalted with Aldor. If I can do the perfect drop here. But those shoulder enchants are nice from Aldor and Scryer, and they're nice well into Northrend. So if you have some time and you're running out of stuff to do, if you come up and farm this stuff. But if you're farming up here, you watch out for that Sun Fury Captain if you're a caster, because he puts a debuff on you that will reduce your magical damage dealt by like 90%. I've seen pallies. I've seen things go very badly for pallies trying to farm these guys. They also have like a drilling beam that like ignores armor. And he's still over there. I guess I'll go do this other side. Oh, now he leaves. You bastard. You... Oh, I didn't get that many of them. It's too loud. My mic is probably picking that up. Whoop. Yeah, they nerfed the mana regen from Spirit Tap just a little bit, but it's still pretty freaking good. I gotta do a better pull than that. Where is that captain? Oh, he's taking off over here now. I hate it when they turn. When you get one of these guys killed before the rest, you get your Spirit Tap going sooner, which is damage and healing and mana regen. Oh, that's just rude. Yeah, these guys aren't bad if you single target them, because you can kill them before they put their debuff on. But yeah, I'll be tearing through stuff with this priest. Now, granted, the Northrend mobs have more health and they do more damage, but I don't see it being much of a problem. One more pull. So the mana regen is a little bit lower, but it looks like Holy Nova costs a little bit less, so it kind of balances out. Oh well. I think I got through everything I wanted to get through. Most importantly, have fun. Try to have fun. Do fun things. Try silly stuff. I really like challenging myself and seeing what I'm capable of, but it does get me killed sometimes, which is not is not conducive to fast leveling. But I enjoy it. So don't be afraid to do things you enjoy, because that will improve your stamina for keeping playing. So those are a bunch of general strategies or meta strategies for making your Northrend leveling experience a little more efficient. I'm the Expert Layman. Have fun in Northrend.